Welcome everyone to the Flying Doctor channel. Welcome especially if you have returned, and welcome especially if you have subscribed. Don't forget to like us, to ding the bell and to subscribe so you get to know when I've produced my latest content. Here I've got for you 20 essential tips to help you master career mode in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. This video is all about certifications, missions and flying smarter, getting you to unlock better planes and take on more exciting challenges. It is not about putting a company together. I'm not that far yet. I'm on a journey and I'm hoping that you'll join me. However, these tips are a mix of my very own real, sometimes painful experiences, and also the gems that are available if you scratch around and look at the Microsoft Flight Simulator forums in their various guises. If you're in a hurry, stick around for the next 4 minutes and you'll get an old school countdown of the top 20 tips here, from disaster saving tricks to the absolute must know advice to help you progress as quickly as possible. Don't forget, check the timestamps in the description. It may well just be helpful for you just to look at 1 or 2 things. But whether, I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the Flying Doctor channel once again, and let's geek into it. Well, if we're going to do this, we need to do it properly. So welcome folks to this top 20 tips countdown, old school style, from the ones that will save you from disaster to the must know advice to soar through career mode. On at number 20, Bug Workarounds, from pushback quirks to refueling hacks. I think I've got some solutions. In at number 19, Escape Don't Crash. The escape key saves missions and your reputation. Number 18, bad weather isn't always bad. Learn to use it to your advantage. In at 17, don't be afraid to go around. It's not failure, it's strategy. Number 16 is dealing with strange mission commands, quick reply and some other weird stuff that comes up. Number 15, flap speeds. Keep your plane and your dignity intact. Watch out for that underwear, we don't want it too loose. Number 14 is Autopilot plus navigation plus sim rate, the ultimate time saver trio. Or we could have for 13, Autopilot and navigation, getting from A to B stress free. Or just 12, Autopilot, mastering the basics of hands-free flying. I have to warn you, it's a crash course. Number 11, crucial speeds to remember for takeoff, climb and gliding if your engine fails. Number 10, airport navigation, keep your sense of direction in sprawling terminals. Number 9 is taxi rides matter. Don't skip this crucial step. Number 8 is all about camera views. 2 essential camera views for managing your flights effectively. In at 7, toggle off visual assistances. Fly with more emotional skill. Number 6 is obey mission steps. Your frenemy for staying on track. Number 5, your reputation is gold. Completing missions unlocks the best opportunities. In at 4, choose missions wisely. Maximise your payouts for faster progress. In number 3 is adjust time and weather, open new missions and tweak conditions to your favour. In number 2, certification, specialization and missions, unlock the keys to career mode success. And in at number 1, save your control bindings. Don't let Microsoft Flight Simulator ruin your setup. Yes, it's about 5 things that you only need to put in to get your flight in career modes, but it is possible to save your profiles in a folder that has got the largest file name I've ever seen. Should we get on with it then? But if you just want to, you can have a look in the description section and you will find all the timestamps there. So just scratch away to your heart's content. Let's get on with it. Tip number 1 is to check and save your control bindings. You'll see that the toolbar is reduced in terms of the options. You can access your settings here to make sure that you have set, and here we go, the brakes, the parking brakes, the throttle and the flaps. Those are basically the 4 things you need to get going and to stay airborne. However, Microsoft Flight Simulator has a habit of removing your bindings and so it is worth backing them up. You get really quick in terms of being able to reset things, but if you do need to back up, there is a config folder. This won't be for everyone, and of course it only works on PC. So here we go. It's your user folder in your root drive, then your username, then app data, local packages, Microsoft.limitless, that big unwielded folder there, then system app data and WGS. And then there's a stonking great file name here. That is your config folder. I'll put it in the comments section. It will save all of your profiles. Well worth keeping a copy of that anyway. Number 2 is understanding how certification, specialization and missions work. This won't look like your screen when you start out because I've been given an office. But certification, which is what we're going to measure on here, is the passing of exams to fly specific aircraft. When you click on the private pilot license that you have to start out with, you'll see that there's some training modules to the left here. Each certification comes with a set of tutorials, some better than others. You can either follow the tutorials here or you can practice them in free flight, where you can be bothered to take a training tutorial. You'll see that you actually get a grade next to it here. I've got a B for manoeuvring there, and if I scroll down, I think there was a C for first solo flight before I was just getting used to things. So here's the first element, that you don't have to take all of the training modules, and actually to be able to pass things, I have to confess I don't think it's the most technically sophisticated process in the world, and you can retake the exams anyway. But the important thing is to recognize that you don't have to do all of this stuff in order to progress. You just need to take the exam and pass. And on the bottom here you can see that the following aircraft are available once I have passed the exam. And it's worth noting that the bread and butter for your specification is you're going to be asked to fly a circuit, apart from 1 or 2 exams dumped me somewhere in the middle of a flight plan, which I wasn't quite sure that was right or not. But the main thing is that you learn to fly what's known as a circuit. You're following markers along the way. So I find that this is a really helpful way. I found circuits always difficult, but a really helpful way of flying a circuit and be able to review things. And I knew there was a reason why I hadn't followed up rotorcraft. It allows me to illustrate that as you journey on your way, you have to pay a certain number of credits. You start out with a small number of credits. You have to pay a certain number of credits to take the exam first place. The important thing to realise is that once you've applied to take the exam, you can go and retake it as many times as possible. And you can see from the right hand side here that once you've taken one step, you've got options. I could either go for a turbine engine rating here. You can see that's 7,500 credits that I'll have had to earn acting as a commercial pilot here in a helicopter. So you can see on the left hand side here I've done my commercial pilot, and then this arc, all of the arc of the next options, and some of them crucially lead to other options as well. I'm into cargo missions because I think medium cargo missions are a really good way of generating as much credit as possible. Let's just talk about specialization. So the specialization, this is ticking away in the background as you carry out missions, and you suddenly find that you've reached the threshold to be able to specialize in particular activities. But also, if you want to focus on one particular part of flight, you might find that you need to achieve certain tasks beforehand. Another interesting example is charter service here for VIP. I need to be at level 45. I'm at level 40 at the moment. And also I need to have taken more private charter airplane missions and achieved B or above. As for the missions, what happens as you progress in the game, different areas of the world appear from which you can select your missions. Different icons here. So the feather icon appears as a first flight mission, scenic rides, transporting people. You can see the aircraft below that I'll be flying. It says Patey Aviation Draco X. You get 680 credit for that, and it tells you it's approximately 30 minutes of flight time. Moving on very briefly, you have photo missions here for flight seeing. You have delivery of aircraft, which is a hand with a key icon. And also the ones that I've been interested in, which has been the haulage, commodity transports as well, cargo transports too. So all of those are available to you, and then once you reach a certain threshold, certain other flights are available, or they're available but you need to do more in order to be able to take on those flights. So the thing that is great about this is that it does bring you into flying aircraft you wouldn't usually fly, and activities within the sim that you would have never done, as opposed to simply planning a flight with waypoints. Hint number 3 is to adjust time and weather settings. Just on the right up here, when you're selecting your missions, you reach a certain point in your career where you're able to change the time and the date. This does two things. Obviously, it changes the visibility. That opens up options for other missions that can take place under VFR during the day. It also has an influence on the weather as well. So it may well be worth looking to see if you can reset the time to reset weather to make your passage that little bit easier. Though I have to say that you do get points for flying in bad weather. But yes, adjust time and weather settings. Number 4, bearing your specializations in mind, is that you may wish to choose missions that are more likely to earn you greater credits. And for me, it was reaching cargo transport medium. The journey on the way, though, involved going through cargo transport light, and this is where I hit my major problems in the sim. 3 aircraft opened up for me. I do not like tail draggers. Now, we all have our favourite aircraft, don't we? But I found that I was best sticking to the Cessna 172. That affects things when you plan your missions. So if I click on missions here, you can see that on the left hand side there'll be a drop down menu. I would like to see this refined so that you could select according to what simply is going to produce the greatest credit, but you can not only see where you can earn the greatest credit, but also there's a standard air freight there. You can see what aircraft you're going to have to fly in. In the end, tonight I had to go all the way to Germany to find a flight in a Cessna 172, but also my favourites are the Kodiak, if you're able to move and progress on with your certifications that far. Point 5 is that reputation, I believe, is gold. You can see here I've preserved a reputation level. I'm just above A. The reputation unlocks better missions and cooler planes. I think the good news is that escaping or restarting a mission doesn't hurt things, but a crash will. Reputation level, I do believe, makes a difference. And you can also see your reputation drops down if you manage to dump an aircraft somewhere. Curiously, that does encourage you to do better. I'm going to illustrate my next point by taking on a mission, a simple flight of a 172 Skyhawk to its owner near Abingdon, 2,350 credits, 163,000 XP. I didn't mention earlier, XP goes to increase the level, and you need increased levels in order to progress in the sim. Mission criteria: ensure aircraft integrity, make sure it doesn't break up mid-flight, and land smoothly rather than bouncing down the runway. Once you agree to this delight, you'll be confronted with yourself in front of an aircraft. There we are, and it's W, A, S and D to progress. For me, point 6 is pay attention to the mission steps. Your mission steps are to the top right here. I'm being told remove the chocks, remove engine cover, remove pitot cover and remove static port cover. Just wander up to the aircraft, bring them in view, click on them, and now we're in career mode. We are actually told that you do need to crouch and get close to the chocks to remove them. And then I'm told here, controller needs to complete startup procedure. Suffice to say, these instructions, obey them, because otherwise you won't be able to get off the ground, but also you will face a penalty, or you'll have to find a way around not getting a penalty, which can be a bit of a challenge. Call it an added challenge of the game. But your mission window is more, yes, it is a friend to you, but sometimes it feels like a frenemy. An added bonus point, if you can't quite read it, is that if you press enter or rightmost soft key to continue in this aircraft, you'll find that the navigation map will open out for you. Other aircraft don't necessarily have anything as sophisticated, but you can always press the tab key and that will give you an indication of your course, which is very helpful indeed. Significantly, and here's an added bonus, there's also a way in which you can remove the assistances, just like this. You can see it's kept my hold short marker here. And in terms of toggling the assistances, you'll find that the key that you require is toggle visual assistances display. Toggle visual assistances display. I've mapped that to one of my joystick buttons on my Rhino stick. Number 8. Perhaps should have done this earlier alongside the controls, but the two views that I think are most important is the cockpit landing view. Plug that one in so that you can get quick access to that, and also your view through the left hand door there. If you want to find out what those are precisely, I'm going to click on my controls here. I'm going to go to my stick. There we go, and we'll just search for input. Toggle landing cockpit mode here. That's the actual setting for it. Toggle landing cockpit mode. And your left hand view is cockpit quick view left. Those are the two that I'd encourage you to program in. They're the ones you're going to use the most. Number 9 is don't skip the taxiing. So I'm going to press enter now. Here we've just given the instruction that we're taxiing. Some airports, that's all you do. Some airports you wait for permission. So we're able to go on. As you can see, we've got these giant arrows. We need to follow these and stop at hold short. Now, two things as you do this. Firstly, do not go onto the taxiway unless you've got permission. You will get a warning for that. Also, do not increase your taxi speed on the taxiway to more than 20 knots. You will get docked for that as well. So let's just talk you through that. If you look to your second Garmin display, if you're in the 172, you can see right on the top bar here, where you've got the navigation map, you've got ground speed, and it's registering 0 at the moment because I've stopped the aircraft, but that's the way that you're able to accurately track the speed. Things aren't as sophisticated in other aircraft, which is why I find this helpful, but it'll give you an idea of what sort of 15 knots looks like as you're travelling along the taxiway. Number 10 might seem obvious, but I wonder if it's just me. Smaller airports are pretty straightforward. Sometimes you'll end up going right to the end of the runway, doing a U-turn at the end of the runway and coming back. Larger airports, genuinely, it can be difficult to find your way, even with the arrows for direction. You can be passing large areas of taxiway and you're thinking, where the heck am I going? Where am I going in my general direction? Well, once you ask for permission, you can find what runway you're due to take off from. I've just asked permission to take off here and it's saying enter runway 12. But another way of finding this is to go back to your trusty flight bag. You can see I'm on runway 12. Why is this helpful? Because as I'm approaching the threshold here, I can say, hang on, there's runway 12. And that means I'm going to take off and I'm in that direction. Well, there's not much runway there. So yes, I will be following the arrows all the way to the end and expect to be turning round. Some of the taxi routes are really extensive. You're talking, a couple of miles you need to taxi in order to find your way. Other useful elements within the flight display here, if you're starting out on the left hand side, you have 4 figures and 4 letters, R, X, G and Y, and speeds next to them, 52, 62, 68, 74. R is your rotate speed. In other words, you don't want to be pulling back on the yoke if you are going below 55 knots, otherwise you'll cause a stall. X is the best angle climb. That's the speed to a climb to achieve the most altitude over the least distance. 62 knots is what you want to be at for the maximum rate of climb. G is the glide speed. Not that you want it to happen, but if the engine fails, you want to be at 68 knots to give you the best glide speed. And Y is slightly different in terms of climb. That's the best rate climb. That's the speed you need to be at to achieve the most altitude gain over the least amount of time. So Y is about altitude gain over time, and X is altitude gain over distance. So if you put yourself at 62, that's your best option for your best rate of climb. Number 12, Autopilot is key to making your missions quicker and more comfortable. In one sense, the autopilot means that the aircraft flies itself along a navigation course. In another sense, the autopilot can be linked with your sim rate to rapidly decrease the amount of time it takes to get to your destination. So let's just run through this. I'm on the 172 here. This is probably more complex. There are simple buttons that you can look for. The first button is AP on the right here, autopilot button. The second button you want to be concerned for is a navigation button, and the third button is altitude. When you press autopilot, that autopilot button, it will maintain the aircraft's current course and state so long as it doesn't enter into impossibilities. Okay, it's balancing all kinds of factors. Okay, you'll see that on the readout here, there's a pink line on the bottom dial here, a pink line on the map. Yes, you'd be right in thinking that's my direction, but also at the center of the horizon indicator here, you've got a pink line and a yellow underneath it. The yellow is the current position of your aircraft, the pink is the desirable. Okay, so follow the pink. Your right hand screen here is the navigation map. Again, here's the pink line. There's a range button that you're able to twist, and that will show you the full extent of the journey that's mapped out for you. You can see we're going to runway 06 there. Always good to remind yourself. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to take off, and I'm going to lift the nose to 10 degrees, maintain a good safe speed, climb out. And when I have completed the climb up to the required altitude, it will tell me. Then I will level out, press Autopilot, and then we will look at fixing our navigation. So let's just get moving here, and I'll just talk you through everything that I do. So we're going to roll forward here. Important thing is not to go into the red here when we are looking at the revolutions per minute. If you do that, it will cause damage to the engine. And I noticed in the tutorials it said, oh, just, push the throttle forward as far as it can go. No, you don't really want doing that. I'm rotating now to 10 degrees, looking to just maintain the flight speed. So it's climb to 550 meters, multiply it by 3.3 roughly to get an idea of where you are looking to go to. 1,700 feet, it will tell me roughly when I'm there. So I'm just maintaining a good climb speed at the moment. I'm going to level off there, and as soon as I level off, this guidance appears. Now you can continue to fly the route. In fact, that's what we'll do. We'll fly the pattern out. There's no penalty if you choose not to. Don't forget that you can remove them here if you just want to have a good look around at the scenery, and it's far more immersive. What a beautiful day it is in the sim today. So yes, we're just going to increase our altitude, 850 now. So that's about 2,500 feet, isn't it? And also these markers, the navigation markers that are in the main screen here are helpful because that gives you an idea of height as well. Very often I estimate the altitude myself and find out that I'm roughly right because I can see what's set. Nice external view here. And once we've climbed to that 2,600-700 feet, we'll find that we'll get a nice little green indication that we are on track, or we should do. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press AP, and that will stabilize things for us at that altitude and that track, as you can see. Let's just rely on our visuals here on our flight display here. So this is the track that we're flying, and we should be along this track towards the right. And so what we're going to do is we've got two options to solve this. The easiest one, if you can get it, is to press nav, which is this button here. Press nav and it should go to GPS. This is a bit temperamental. I'm still not clear as to why exactly that is, and sometimes I found that if I click on the OBS here and I find that helps, but not in this case. So what do we do here? Well, the other way of ensuring that you maintain a fixed course, it's remembering the course I have been on, but you fly a different course, is to move the heading bug. The heading bug is right here. It's the blue bug, and the heading knob is here. Nothing's going to happen until we press this heading and tell the autopilot to fly that. But if I just rotate my heading bug, I'm going to go in between the two purple lines because we need to get back on track towards the smaller line. So let's just do that. And then if I press the heading button here, you'll see that the aircraft will move. Also, I'm noticing that it is increasing altitude. So if I press the out button, I hold the altitude. There we are. It's holding it at 3,490 feet. It's supposed to be a crash course. It's enough to get you started, but there you go. Now, once we're headed in this direction, Hint number 14 is we can start playing about with sim rate, and we speed up the sim. If you go to the controls here and you just press sim, you'll find that your sim rate option comes up. There we are, and you can assign keys to increase or decrease the sim rate, Alt E and Alt T for me. And if you do that, you'll see that there's no impact on the aircraft because it's the sim that is speeding up, not the aircraft. But if we press Alt and T for me, you'll see, and I'm pressing it 3 or 4 times, you'll see that the distance between is rapidly decreasing. I'm going to slow it right down now, because you'll see how quickly we've moved so that we're in line with where we want to be. Notice those 2 lines have moved together down the bottom here. I am going to move the heading bug now back to just about being roughly on course. Notice if I move the heading bug and it's in heading mode, it will move with me. Okay. And then we can increase the sim rate again for us. But you can see the issue that until things are settled, you have to watch out. So to just bang the sim rate on as fast as possible, you'll find you can get into difficulty. Also, you're at risk of missing out mission steps where you need to perhaps press the return key to acknowledge ATC. And if you're in sim rate and you're moving really quickly, there is a danger that you will miss that. But let's just carry on with things as they go. So let's just increase the rate of the sim. Don't forget that if you're wanting to check the sim rate, if you press tab, you can call up the EFB and you can see the number of seconds here on the stopwatch. So there's actually space for me to increase even more and think even more. And all of the time we're still able to use the same options here. So I can move the heading and bring things back nicely on the fly. So yeah, really helpful, this sim rate tool. In fact, one of the things that I've appreciated is actually controlling the sim in this way, but just at a faster rate. You can see there I'm approaching 10 kilometers. I want to slow it right down. I'm just going to slow it right down. You could pause, but I'm just going to slow things right down to give myself time at the moment. Round about now, I'll be looking, you can see I was risk of missing the descent here, so if I press the return key, I can signal that I'm ready to descend, and what will come back is my direction to fly to the airport, and it may well ask me to fly via a pattern. So I'm just going to reduce that down even further and have a little bit of a look around, saying follow traffic pattern, fly to final, just having a look outside and saying, and you'll find that you have these markers that are guiding you, and you think, sometimes you think, well, hang on, what the heck's going on here? What marker am I looking for? Well, sometimes that's a bit intuitive. The main thing is that sometimes it'll ask you to fly via the final marker, or that will come up. That's important to do. But I've not seen any penalties from not flying the traffic pattern. I've also noticed that I'm flying with my pants down, so to speak, because my flaps are still down. But we'll lift the flaps up for the moment just so I can demonstrate what is going on. So we're going to now fly this pattern. I'm going to increase the rate of the sim. There we are. Let's just check the speed that we've got running. Okay, it's a bit too fast. There we are. That's the correct rate. Jump back in. We'll lose autopilot. That's the most important thing. And then I will reduce my power right down. And I'll see I'm really close to the airport, too close for comfort really. Just having a look around here. There's a final window right in front of me and the final marker. So I'll just come back here. I'm quite high as it is. Too high for flaps. So I'm going to fly down to the final. There we are. I'm announcing that I'm arriving. It might be possible to burn off some speed. Number 15 is do not exceed your maximum speed at flap settings. I'm in the pipistrel here. Really like this aircraft. Clearly laid out for us are the speeds that apply for different flap settings. Do not exceed them. If you do, you will face a penalty. Number 16, and I'm working through this chronologically rather than logically. In other words, if it pops up and I'm reminded, I'll point it out again. Within your mission steps window, you will occasionally find requests that you're given no other instructions about. Hold next flight phase to skip to tax. This would be taxi, I think. And I also get this with quick reply to ATC. It can throw you to start off with, but the way to deal with it is to go to your control panel and you'll find a command that you can bind a key to achieve this. So next flight phase, if I just type this in the control panel here, next flight, you'll find that there we are, next flight phase, and I can bind a key to this. As I say, the other one is quick reply for ATC. Again, it's up here, so just if you get into that situation quick, there we go, and then I think it's reply. Yes, this is quick reply there, and for me, I put in an R, for example. Number 17 is do not be afraid of going round. You take all the time in the world. You can see I'm having some problems here. I'm coming in too fast. I'm trying to kill the speed by applying rudder and correcting with the yoke. It's not quite working for me. Still a bit too fast, so I'm just overflying the airport. No problem going round whatsoever. And when you go round, you can enter back into the traffic pattern to land if you want. In fact, I think I get credit for improved airmanship, but you've got lots of helps here. You can see where the final is pointing. You can see back to the traffic pattern. You can return to the altitude that you feel that helps, and then you can make a nice safe landing. There we go, second attempt, far better. A real gentle arrival at runway 7 there. Number 18, and I've possibly said this one before, don't forget that flying in IFR conditions, bad weather, or encountering bad weather is not always a bad thing, because you will get extra credit. The sim will recognise that. So switch on, yes, the autopilot, sit back and let the plane do the rest. But yeah, did somebody just walk through the tail of that plane? That is so rude. Number 19, where we're at it in terms of challenging flights, is that, I say it again, escape is your friend, your golden ticket. Do not pause if you get into difficulty in the sim. Escape out. So if I escape out of this because I've not got a second, where's my Garmin navigation unit gone? Anyway, so it's not appeared here on this particular mission, so I'm just going to escape right out. And you'll see here I can abort or restart. And the great thing is if you escape and abort, I have not yet seen any penalty, any influence on my reputation whatsoever. It's one of the best things about the sim. So yes, you can just abort away and then restart. Or you can abort away and then, yes, return. It says, I'm going back. I've been sent back to the mission's departure airport because I'm a very naughty boy. But when I get sent back, absolutely nothing happens as far as I can see. So abort is your key. Don't pause. So if you can take things as far as you can, if your aircraft starts plummeting to the ground, if it starts stalling and you're trying to land, escape. Don't pause. Don't crash your aircraft. That is the big hint for me. Number 20 is reserved a mop-up of workarounds for some of the bugs that exist in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Yes, they're definite there. I know this is called a Beechcraft Barren, but there's no need to put it on a slope where it may as well be on the beach. Look at it. Look at the state of that. Anyway, we'll get in this and we'll get started. Some of the workarounds. I'll just talk through some of the bugs that people have found as we just start up here. Bug number 1 is that some early users were reporting that their aircraft would spawn in really difficult places to take off, and the suggested way of getting around this is to use Alt and P to move into pushback mode. Alt and P is pushback. Release the parking brakes, the aircraft will roll back, meaning that you are able to manoeuvre around these quite tight turns. Not the best way of doing it, but okay, good to know. Moving on to the next bug, particularly in the Beechcraft Bonanza G36 and the Robin D400, which I've not featured here. This is Beechcraft Barren. The flaps, if they were left down, gave you flap exceeding speed limits even if you were stationary or taxiing, so that's a bit of a problem, just to be aware. So far I've not seen a workaround for that, just simply worth knowing. It may mean that some folks until a fix comes through are going to have to avoid those aircraft. The next bug hint is to go back and re-emphasize with buggy, autopilot and GPS. OBS is an option. Pressing that occasionally might trigger something it shouldn't be triggering, but it works. The other thing is to call up the route in the flight planner, send the file plan with ATC, and send route to avionics. Click on both of those. That has restored things for me before, so that when I've clicked on the nav button, I've got GPS that we're just running here. I've just done it here. The next bug / helpful hint is around barometer settings. I found once or twice, I was thinking, what the heck is the altitude here, and needed to check it. You can change the barometer setting here by going to the lower knob and just clicking that, and you'll see the altitude just shifts very slightly if I do that. This is also helpful. You may want to change this to match it to above ground level if you're doing circuits. So not quite a bug, I don't think, certainly not in this aircraft. Has caused me some problems before, but in theory you should be able to move that outer knob and change the barometer setting. In terms of go-arounds, I've been a great fan, as you can see, of go-arounds, but do be careful, because one or two people have reported that they get a penalty for not requesting to overfly, which if you want to overfly it, I'm presumably that will come up in the dialog box, but there's only come up with one or two people that I've seen, but just be aware of that. Next, I mentioned earlier that add fuel quantity is a helpful addition to your emergency controls, and to illustrate this I used my de Havilland Canada Company DHC2, which is a least favourite aircraft, and I call it the fuel stopper, as it just seems to drop out of the sky. I've never even managed to get this to deliver anything anywhere, but I have tried longer flights. A couple of hints. Firstly, watch out for the fact that you may well need to switch fuel tanks. There's a control section here for that. Second thing is that adding fuel, it's quite possible to bind a command for this. So if you go to your controls, and I've set this in already, I know it's on my throttle, but if I press here and say add, all you have to put is add fuel quantity, you'll see that I've tied that to two separate joystick buttons. I'm not sure why it's given me two options of add fuel quantity, but we will run with that. And so if I press those and we pop down here, you'll see that the fuel adds. Can you see, to all three tanks? There you go. Doesn't have an option for dumping the fuel. However, I have to say that I've still always had a problem flying this aircraft. Don't really like it, but there we go. But that's how to add fuel if you get into difficulty. And so, folks, yes, just looking back, I think that I've covered just about all that I felt I could cover. I've done it, hopefully, logically and not chronologically, although some things appear in the sim and you're just thinking, oh, I've forgotten to say that, so it slots in earlier. 20 top hints and tips and workarounds for career mode in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. If you liked what you saw, if you found it helped, then please hit like, subscribe and ding the bell so that you know when I broadcast the next time. Let me know your favourite career road moments in the comments. Also, yes, I'm just journeying along with this like many of you. You may see quite a few anomalies in this video. I've had to go back and jump into different aircraft because I've actually found there's a sort of glitch or a problem. But in the main, I've really enjoyed exploring career mode, and it's taken me to parts of the sim and into aircraft I would have never thought about flying before. I mean, you can see it, can't you? My main kind of focus before was helicopters. I really got into that, but now I think I felt overwhelmed by the number of aircraft. But the career mode, actually, it really does add something. So if you're watching this and New Year is approaching, Happy New Year to you folks. Thanks for joining us. Flying Doctor over and out.